So if this lighting is crap, I'm sorry, the weather is just not having it today. So, I'm Greg, I'm 25, and welcome back to this mess that I call my life. So before I start this, I just want to say that the last video I posted, just forget that, because I pretty much threw that reading list out the window, because the day after I posted it, I got this. And the second that I got it, I started on the Adam Silvera reading list, or reading binge, whatever the hell you want to call it, that I said I want to do. And I just finished More Happy Than Not last night. And, am I okay? No. But I'm gonna dive deeper into that once I actually finish reading all those. And, do an entire fucking video about me crying for Lord knows how long, because Adam Silvera just loves to make me cry. Anyway, today I'll be talking about this masterpiece. And I do mean a masterpiece because this book, holy crap. What is with authors making me cry in 2021? What is that about? Yeah, I finally finished All Boys Are Blue after 2-3 videos now? And I did a buddy read to this with one of my friends on Instagram. Her handle is The Page Turner. I will link her in the description below. But I think it was on page, 2 or something of this book that I was yep, this is it. This has made my list of favorite books of all time. But yeah, we're gonna be diving into this today. So on the first 2 or 3 pages, the author Jerton Johnson mentioned something about their birth and how they confused them for a girl at first, and then it turns out, oh no, wait, they're a boy, and it just, this entire flip-flop wish-wash shit. And as they put it, it was actually ironic because at the moment I think they're non-binary. I'm not sure, do not quote me on this. Now I'm gonna be reading some passages from this book, so I'm on page 3 at the moment, and they specifically said on this page, kids who don't fit in the perfect boxes are often left asking themselves what the truth is. Am I a girl? Am I a boy? Am I both? Am I neither? And that, my dear followers, is a whole ass mood. No joke, I struggled with the exact same thing growing up. At some point, there was a very long period where I was what the hell am I? What do I want to be? Which leads me to now being the occasional dude. I don't know. As I stated in video 1, my pronouns are he and they. And yeah, that's just it. That's the vibe, I guess. But the first part of the introduction is literally titled, what is it? Black Queer Here. And yeah, that's literally it. That's literally it right here. So from the very first thing, you know that George is not fucking around. They're not playing games. They just get straight to the point. Fair warning, there are a lot of F-bombs and N-bombs in here. So, yeah, be wary of that. Another reason I really connected with this, because there was, at some point they said that, as a child, I always knew it was different, and, the amount of times I've said this in my life, if I had $1 for every time, I would not be sitting here right now, filming this on my iPhone with a ring light. I would be, well, I'd be rich, probably. But in the introduction, there's a passage about how they, struggle with their identity as a black person and as a queer person, and I'm gonna say this a lot, and I've said this a lot already, but I resonate a lot with that because, yeah, even now I still struggle with my blackness and my queerness at the age of 25. Living in Ireland, there's a quote in here somewhere where George says something along the lines of, there is no such thing as a respectable Negro, and I felt that. So again, from the get-go, this is the realest shit. This is it right here. So in chapter 1, there's a lot of talk about their childhood, their early childhood, and how sometimes George would daydream about being a girl, having long hair, dresses, and again, same. I distinctly remember there were times I would just be playing by myself, and I would imagine myself wearing dresses and having long hair like my sister or my cousins, who were all, at the time, all female. No joke, being born as the first boy in a family full of girls, that was it was something. Pressure, yes. Just in this, I also felt sometimes I was born in the wrong body, and then I didn't come to realize that this wasn't true only years later, where I still felt uncomfortable in my own skin / in my own body. Now I do, more or less, but for the longest time I did wonder, was I meant to be a girl? And I would not trade my body now for anything. I mean, I would like to lose a couple pounds, but that's on me. But I would not trade myself to be anyone else. Like, I'm gonna try to be like less spoilery as possible, so I would highly recommend you read the book, obviously, so I'm gonna try and not spoil it as much, but yeah, I make no promises, and this is just gonna be it's probably gonna be a video about me just ranting about how I connect with certain things from this book, because Lord knows that I fucking do. Which leads me to page 29, mental health, aka the thing that does not exist, for at least for like my experience. Again, my experience and George's experience are somewhat similar in that growing up, we did not have access to any therapy and counseling because things like mental health were not really prominent, I would say. Like, it's not something that I think my parents really knew that much about, and I don't know, there was a very long time where it was not handled well, to the point where I was just not feeling being alive. And you know what, I'm just leave it at that, because that is not what this video is about. But that leads me right into the next thing. It's actually on page 30. There's something about just smiling and just smile the pain away, and you know, toughen up because you're a boy, and like boys will be boys and all that crap. That is the biggest load of bullshit out there. So this is something that's on page 30. It says, if you get into a fight, you better win the fight, or I'm gonna beat your ass when you get home. And yeah, like I was not directly told this, but I was told that like if and when I would ever get into a fight, that I should win. And I made sure that I have never been in a physical fight in my life. I still have not, and I do not wish to be. Because while I do think that I can throw a few good punches here and there, I would get my ass rocked so hard. So just from the first two things, the introduction and the first chapter, like I got so much. I got so many feels and emotions from this. Like, again, I cannot push this book enough. This is basically gonna be like a red, white, and royal blue thing. I'm gonna be just pushing this book in everyone's faces until they read this. I don't care. Read it. Chapter 2 speaks about identity. So this might be a bit of a reach for me, but in chapter 2, where they talk about identity, George mentions about being called Matthew or Matt as a child, and afterwards they found out that their name was actually George, or their first name is George. And this is actually a nickname of mine as a kid. Someone called me George. I don't know who, but I did not like the name. My name was Gregory. My name is Gregory. What the hell am I talking about? But I always felt somewhat disconnected from this name because it's the same name as my dad. And I don't know, I just, for the longest time, I didn't feel like it was my name. And there's something in here about George having a identity crisis as a child. And again, same. Like, you would think children don't go through this stuff, but we do. I did. George did. These are things that happen, and holy crap, I'm glad someone like said something or wrote an entire book about it, because yeah, like aside from the Black Flamingo, I think this is the very first time that I've felt connected or seen represented in a book that's been published in, I want to say mainstream media, but somewhat mainstream media. Let's just leave it at that. But like I've felt this thing in 2 chapters, and like it's fucking insane. Like, I feel like the topics mentioned in this book should be mentioned more often. I feel like this book should be handed out to every single family. Just hand it out to everyone. Am I debating handing this out to my own family? Yes. Like, I thought about it. I'm just having like 5 or 6 copies airlifted from here to Curacao and be like, y'all better read this shit. But I'm broke, so I can't really do that. So I'm gonna be reading one of the last things that's mentioned in chapter 2. The passage says, let yourself unlearn everything you thought you knew about yourself, and listen to what you need to know about those who navigate life outside the margins of a heterosexual box. Yeah, that is it right there. That is it right there. Like, for me and a lot of other people, identity is something that we struggle with a lot. And that line, that quote, whatever the hell you want to call it, that was basically the truth. I had to let go of a lot of things in order to actually find myself. And like I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm gonna assume this was like the thing for a lot of people as well, because again, if I felt it, George felt it, it must be a common thing. Just because you don't see it on the surface does not mean that it's not happening. It just means that we're good at hiding it. Chapter 3 is titled Honey Child, and that is a word that George coined when they were little. It was just something they used, like sis or bitch or something like that. And leading up to the use of this word, George said something about how they would envision themselves because they met this one person, this one woman who was just like it, and how they envisioned themselves as an adult, as this grown woman doing her own thing, doing what she needs to do, what she wants to do, and just creating an entire persona out of this one person. And again, same. I am not going to go into detail about that because I do not want to really dive into that, because I feel like that's something for a therapist to dive into, and I'm assuming none of y'all are therapists, so I don't know if you are. Hit me up because I need some help. I feel like this is also something that a lot of people, queer kids, black queer kids, struggle with or go through, because it just feels like a safe space. And that's also what's mentioned here, that it was just this safe space in your mind that you could go to, that when everything else is crap, you have this one safe space. And holy fuck, I don't know if you've noticed yet, but this book may reflect a lot on my childhood, which I do not like to do often because trauma. But hey, here we are. So chapter 4 is literally titled Fags Play Football Too. And yep, as someone who was forced to play sports as a child, namely baseball, oh yeah, am I good at it? I think so. Like, I never really got into it because I was forced into it, and right now I just hate baseball. If you like baseball, I'm sorry. I just can't, because I was forced to play it, and I just hate it now. I hate it. But chapter 4 talks a lot about how George felt mostly connected and hung out with mostly girls as a kid, and how the other boys would make fun of him because they were like, why are you hanging out with girls? You're a guy. Why don't you hang out with us? And it just became this thing. And they were just like, okay, fine. I guess I'll go play football or whatever. And how they were terrified of doing that, but then realized they were actually good at it. There was a time in elementary school where I was in class where at recess, the teacher would just pick a random section of boys to play soccer, football, whatever the fuck you want to call it. That thing with like the round ball, not the brown one. I'm not good at sports, okay? Either way, we had to play, and I played maybe once or twice, and I suck. Like, I was scared. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just running around not doing jack shit, and everyone hated me for it because they were just like, why don't you fucking man the fuck up and play? And I didn't have an answer for them because I honestly had no idea. At some point, I would just like give my spot to someone, and that was like the one time guys acknowledged me. They were like, can I have your spot? Can I have your spot? Can I have your spot? Other than that, they thought I was invisible. So I did hang around mostly girls, mainly my sister, because we went to the same same school. And I just clung on to her and her friends because I just felt safest there. And it just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like something I needed because I did not feel safe at all times. Seriously, I love this book, but it made me reflect on a lot of things that I would rather forget, so, oh boy. But chapter 4 is basically just that, about George explaining how they were made to play football and how they were like, oh, okay, I'm good at it, I guess. Cannot relate to being good. Baseball, I might be good at, I don't know. Again, I gave up before I even gave it a shot. My brother's great, though. Like, Chris, if you're watching this, I'm proud of you. Continue doing what you're doing. Chapter 5 seems like a history lesson more than anything, and yeah, I resonate with it as well. It's called Honest Abe Lied to Me, I think. Right? Yeah. And in it, George talks about how they were taught one thing in school, but then found out later that that's fucking bullshit. And yeah, same. Because where I grew up, I still had to learn about Christopher Columbus and how he, like, quote unquote, sailed the world to discover these beautiful places. But it was there that I found out he was a fucking asshole who murdered indigenous people and colonized land that was not his to begin with, and now he's praised as some kind of fucking hero. The fuck is that about? So please join me as I read a passage from chapter 5. But I've come to learn that symbolism is a threat to actual change. It's a chance for those in power to say, look how far we've come, rather than admitting, look how long we've stopped you from getting there. Preach, sis. Preach. Right now, all the information that I have regarding cultural appropriation, racism, and stuff like that, I had to learn it myself. No one taught me. I did my own research. Google is free. If you're here from Instagram, you know that I like to rant a lot about these things. And yeah, I'm aware that it's not my job, because I'm not a fucking teacher. It's not my job to educate anyone, but I do this out of the kindness of my heart because, you know, these are things that I feel like should be talked about. So yeah, let's just start a petition to actually teach kids proper history and not just the bullshit that they come up with. So one thing I forgot to mention is that this book has 4 acts. I just read part 1, which is a different kid. Part 2 is family, or act 3 is teenagers, and act 4 is friends. I'm about to go on to act 2. And act 2 starts with this adorable letter titled Dear Little Brother. And when I read this, I just started crying because I saw a lot of this with my relationship with my little brother as well. Again, Chris, if you're watching this, I'm proud of you, I love you, and just continue doing what you're doing. There is an entire chapter in here dedicated to George's grandmother and how they were close, and holy hell, again, tears. Because, again, like, this necklace that I wear, this little cross, it belonged to my grandma, and I love my grandma with all my fucking heart. It broke me when she died, and just reading that took me back to all that. Oh my god, like, I just feel so lucky that I had a grandma who would support me, even though I didn't know at the time. It was only after I died that I asked my mom like what she thinks that grandma would have thought about this, and she just said that my grandma would have supported me 100% all the way, and I wish she was here. I think she is still. Like, sometimes I just like feel a presence and I'm just like, grandma, can you not right now? Like, I was fortunate enough to have a grandma like this, and I really hope, or I wish everyone had a grandma like this. But unfortunately that's not the case, and not everyone has that support system. On page 141, there is some mention of something about building a support system from the system around you, and I feel like everyone should read that because I feel like it is something that's very important because, again, not everyone has a support system from the get-go. Some have to find it, some have to make it, but it is something that everyone needs, whether you're black, queer, even just like straight. You need a support system because without it, you are not going to get anywhere, and it's something that I will never stop talking about. Chapter 8 was a passage about George's dad, and basically how George thought that their dad had a second chance with this family. And like, my dad is not like this, although I do see similarities. Like, their dad was a cop, my dad was a cop, but my dad did not have another family, or doesn't have another family. It's just like my immediate family, and I don't know, it just made me like not question but reflect again more childhood trauma about how my dad was just this, like, I want to say masculine presence, and I was very not that, and it did cause a rift between us, but now I think that's repaired. That's been repaired. Once I moved here, my relationship with my dad got better, but this made me like look back upon that, and it made me realize like I could have tried harder, because, you know, as my dad's first son, I could have tried a bit harder to be like into what he's into and just give it a shot, and I didn't, and I regret that. But I do try harder now, and I feel like that's something that everyone should like do. Just try to get along with your parents at least. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, that's fine. It doesn't always do that, but you know, try at least. I don't know where this video is going, but it's just got off the rails. So after chapter 9, which I'm not gonna get into chapter 9 because it made me very emotional, but read it. So after chapter 9, there is a letter to his mother, and again, tears, because Same, I related a lot to this, and I love my mom so much, like, a lot. You have no fucking idea how much I miss my mom right now. She's not dead, she's just thousands and thousands of miles away on an island while I'm in this icebox country which has bipolar ass weather. But this letter, dear mommy, yeah, it did it for me. And after that, there was another passage about their grandmother, and I did feel this as well, because this made me just really fucking cry, because it resonated a lot with what I went through with my mom and my grandma. And oh my god, there's a lot here. Listen, if you are a black queer child, I'm pretty sure you will resonate a lot with this book. But even if you're not, I promise you this will bring you to tears. In the first part of Act 3, there's not much I relate to, because they talk mostly about experiences growing up and how they were sexually harassed, and I would just I would feel bad for saying this, but luckily I was never sexually harassed. I feel bad because there are a lot of people out there who are sexually harassed, and I feel like this, because in this chapter they talk a lot about how their experiences was with one of their cousins, and this is something I noticed a lot in the black community and the queer community, that like people experiment with their cousins and stuff like that. And it's something like I do not think it is okay, but I feel like it's also kind of a norm. I do not think it's okay, but it also feels like it's something that it happens a lot and no one knows or acknowledges, and that is a huge problem. Like, it made me uncomfortable, but it also opened my eyes as to how much this actually happens. And yeah, it's a lot. In the next chapter, it's mostly at this point about how George graduated from high school and went on to college, and something about their mom saying like, you're not gonna come back here, I just know it. And I'm just like, same. Like, it's not that I don't love my home, it's not that I don't love my island or my family, it's just that I feel like, I don't know, being there kind of makes me feel stuck in a way. And reading this, like going off to college and finally being you, that's me right now. Like, this book just caught up to me where I am in my life. And yeah, I don't know, it's just, I don't know how to explain the feeling I got when I read this, but it just felt like, it felt good to know that I'm not the only one who experienced this, or I'm not the only one who felt this. And I feel like it does that a lot for a lot of people. And in the passages that follow, they talk mostly about found family and how they went to, how they joined a frat and everything that followed. And that I did not resonate with that much, because I didn't join a frat. I don't know if there are frats in this country. Is that a thing? But going to college, experiencing everything, and finally being able to be yourself, yeah. One thing I did not resonate with is the fact that George really like came into who he is at a later time. I think they were about 25 or so. I'm 25 now, and honestly, I still don't know who I really am fully, but I know more or less. And this just made me reflect on all of it, like all of it at till this point. If you do not own this book, go out and buy it. Go get it from fucking Amazon. If you're in the Netherlands, Bol, Book Depository, your local library, I don't know, just get your hands on a copy of this book. Like, if I'm promoting it heavily, if you feel like I'm promoting it heavily, I am, because this will without a doubt be one of the greatest things you'll ever read. It does not matter what the color of your skin is, what your sexuality is, there will be something in here that you can resonate with, and will open your eyes to one or more things that you feel like should be talked about more, or that you feel like you should have reflected on. It's never too late to reflect on these things, and I feel like this would be a good first step. If it were possible to give a book more than 5 stars on Goodreads, I would do that, because this book deserves all the stars. It is beautifully written, well crafted, well put together. Like, there is not a single bad thing I can say about this book. Like, these are objective opinions, views, whatever, because like, again, I resonate a lot with this book, and you might not, but you know, that's why you're watching this video, it's to get my opinion on this thing. So yeah, I would say pick up a copy, read it, and just sit down and really think about what you just read, because it will give you that feeling. I think this might be the longest video I've ever done. I don't know how long it's been. How long has it been? I have no idea. But if you made it this far, thank you, and I really hope you pick up a copy of this book. What I'll be doing next week, I have no idea, because I'm just struggling at the moment, especially since Aunt Severa is fucking me up. But there will be a video on that within the coming 2 weeks, probably. So yeah, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next week.